Welcome, everyone, to the first Socratic Cinema podcast. My name is Charlie Heatherly.
I'm Hallie Phillips.
My name's Casey Clark.
And I'm James Delicio.
And like all professional movie reviewers, we are currently sitting in a basement, getting ready to talk to you guys about the new Aladdin movie that just came out.
Woo woo.
Yeah.
Good Lord, did it suck.
I don't think it deserves any praise.
No praise.
Thought that the movie, in every regard except for visual, was a cinematic train wreck to savor.
Don't do Guy Ritchie like that.
It was a movie in which none of the characters were people, and the most likable character I can't even name.
Carpet.
The Carpet. The Carpet was the
Carpet.
most likable character. And he's not even a person.
He is not a person.
All of the dialogue is awkward. The CGI is okay, and so is the costuming and the dancing, but those are like sort of secondary to plot, I would say, which was not great. And that's coming from the original movie, which was sort of okay. Wow. Yeah, hot
Charlie.
take.
Whoa,
Start debating already
Yes.
here.
So I would give this movie, out of a 10, probably a solid 3.5.
3.5.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
this
was
movie's
bad.
a 3.5.
I would
Maybe
say
a 4.
Maybe a 4.
4 on the first watch because you're like, oh wow, and then
Yeah.
The spectacle wears off on the second one.
yes.
You wanna go next?
Hot takes. Okay, so honestly, the whole movie was awkward, off rhythm. Everything Charlie said, I agree with. Because the only thing I really got from the movie that was good and well made was the costume design. They completely slaughtered the scores, the original scores from the original movie. They just added weird hip hop tracks into it, which I hope you'll get into more later.
That's
Yes,
right. They
we
did give
definitely
Jasmine 2 songs, which were
They were trash.
eventful, to
They
say
were
the least.
Unessential.
Unessential. We'll get into that later, though. Could we
Yeah.
get Casey's take on this?
All right. So I was going into this movie very excited because I was definitely a Jasmine girl growing up. And having seen it twice now, I feel like I'm disillusioned and disenchanted. My childhood has been stomped on. None of the characters are likable, especially Jasmine. Ooh, we'll get into that later. But they really lost a lot of the charm and charisma that the original movie had by trying too hard to not be the original.
Mm-hmm.
James.
So, for me, I never had a really strong connection with the original Aladdin. I think I saw it once. I didn't. So I really kind of went into the remake without any prior like expectations. I know some of the songs though, and yeah, the parts that I liked about the movie, the musical sequences, I thought were pretty cool, except for one that I think we're gonna get to. I did not hate Will Smith as the genie at all. I know he probably like. There's a lot of backlash against it all, but I honestly thought that he was pretty, like, solid, you know? I think that was one of the better parts of the movie for me, but, man, there was just a lot of camera work, and
Camera work was absolutely horrible.
that just felt awkward to me. I didn't care for Aladdin at all.
No sentiment.
I think when they added nipples, they took away the
I
character.
know.
And I think that's the fundamental
when they
trade-off
gave
that
him a
occurred.
shirt, that was like, yo, what
Movie's
is
over.
this?
Yeah.
Movie's over.
So,
what did I pay for?
I think I'm gonna agree with them. I'd probably give it like a 4.5.
Okay.
Out of 10,
okay.
I liked it a little. In the theater, I hated it, but after I left, I started liking it. Like, I was looking back on it fondly, more and more.
And I know this sounds like we're absolutely trashing the movie and we're overblowing it in some sort of clickbait-esque scenario, but when we say it was horrible in every way except for, like, costuming, we mean that it was horrible in every way except for
choreographed
costuming.
dance sequences.
And there was good dance sequences that they sped up, but, you know, it's fine.
Yes, that's true. He could not move that fast.
But I think to accurately assess the movie, we first need to go through a summary of it.
Right.
I would say a nice group summary. The movie starts off differently than the first Aladdin. Instead of starting in Agrabah at night, we start on the middle of a ship where we see Will Smith as a pirate man with two children. We actually don't know that they're his children. So it's a little awkward when you realize that a 50-year-old man is talking to two 7-year-old kids on a boat.
Named Oleg and
Oleg
Olivia.
and Olivia, you
Yes,
remember their
I
names?
remembered, yeah.
That was
you
the
know.
most interesting part of the film was their names. But
He starts singing.
he starts
Never-
singing,
Oh, yeah.
and that's our
Off
Arabian
key.
Nights right
Off
there.
He did
key, that
not
is
come in on the
important.
correct
He
key.
did not.
He said, he's like, da-da, da-da-da. It's like, yikes, that was not well done at all.
There's a little fake out where he's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna sing Arabian Night." Like, so it starts off with that, and then you get into more of a traditional Arabian Nights where we're going through Agrabah, and I thought that scene was awesome.
Oh, I love
Yes.
that tracking shot of,
Yeah.
of
Mhm.
the monkey whose name was
Abu.
Abu was the monkey.
I thought it was Apu for the majority.
A poo.
I thought that was great. I'm a sucker for tracking shots.
Yeah.
That's just me. But I thought the whole Arabian Nights scene did a really good job of like going through and giving us a little hint of the palace and like, oh, who's this guy with the monkey? He's so cool.
But what did
Yeah.
you think about them overgliding Jafar in the beginning? Because they
Oh,
totally
jeez.
left out all the power in that scene.
Mm-hmm.
They just glided
Yeah.
over the tiger and they were
You're,
like, whoop, we're
you're
done.
talking to a
I
man that
know.
didn't watch the original.
Yeah,
movie.
again.
Okay, so in
it was
the
cool.
original, Jafar takes this ruffian to the Cave of Wonders, and he's like, "Yo, go get me this lamp." And the ruffian's like, "Okay, just don't kill me." And he goes in, and the ruffian's supposed to get the lamp, but he doesn't. And then all the Cave of Wonders, of course, collapses on him.
Because he's
just
not
like-
the diamond
Yeah,
in
he's
the
not
rough.
the diamond in the rough.
So he's like, no.
But didn't we get that?
Kind of, but
It was more
There was-
powerful and it was more drawn
Mhm.
out and
because
explained.
you really see Jafar as like this bit, like as Genie says in the movie, like he's the guy, like he's
Yeah.
like the get me the lamp,
Mhm.
and in the movie he was just like watching this dude get collapsed on.
In the movie, he's played by like a 20-year-old guy.
Oh my gosh.
Which is definitely not as intimidating as the 60-year-old tactical mastermind that is
jeez.
Jafar from the original.
Exactly,
Right.
yeah.
Also, when you take out Gilbert Gottfried as Iago, it really takes a lot of the fun out of
Oh,
Jafar's character. And I have this whole theory on the animals, which I'll save for later because we're doing the
Very
summary.
excited to hear that.
It's an awesome theory. They don't think so as much. I do. We're gonna get to that later. So after the cave collapses on this poor helpless man, then he's thrown in there. In the original, he's like he goes in on his own volition, and this one Jafar just like kicks him in there, and it's sort of mean and cruel.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really set up Jafar that well as a bad guy because you're just like why would you
Yeah.
do
Who
that?
is this guy in this hat?
Like, you go into the movie and they made it expecting you already watched the original.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They made it not for James.
So, and then should we keep moving? So after
Yeah.
after Arabian Nights, and then Jafar kicks the guy into the Cave of Wonders. Then we're in the Agrabah marketplace, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we meet Aladdin, and I forgot. He steals something.
He steals. I think it was
A necklace.
no.
necklace.
He meets Jasmine before the
Chase happened.
before the chase happens. In the original,
Mhm.
it's the other way around.
Exactly.
But in this movie, he meets Jasmine, and then he tries to get her out of trouble. And when that fails, they sort of run around the streets of Agrabah, and that's when
One jump
ahead of the bread line, one step
jump.
in front of the other poor people. So there's that part, and I would say the scene or the sequence was fairly dynamic-ish, but not as much as the first movie.
No, when
They
I-
didn't have him in a harem. They put him in a school.
I mean, I
but
was
not a
missing that
harem.
part, but
Yeah, they changed a lot of the movie to make it more PC.
The
Like-
whole and
except
we'll
for the
get
gratuitous boob shots.
Oh yeah,
we'll get into that
later.
for sure. But the whole One Jump Ahead, I think is what the song is called. That whole sequence was that's where I first started thinking like, man, I'm not gonna like this movie
Mhm.
because just Aladdin, he just didn't. He lost a lot of the charm that he had in the original. He just kind of was like
Yeah.
a little bit too much.
The intelligence is lost, and I think that sequence in the original movie was a great way to show how crafty Aladdin is, because Aladdin is really smart. Like, he's not school smart, but this guy, he's athletic, intelligent, like, he's sort of a full package, so you get why Princess Jasmine wants to get with
Oh,
him so
yeah.
much. In this
Yes.
movie, he's sort of just like a jerk that gets lucky. There's one little thing he does at the very end of the chase that's smart, where he grabs a carpet that's pretty heavy, or it's like a rolled up carpet or something, and he jumps out of a window and throws the carpet into a roof, and the carpet breaks through. So it looks like he jumped into that room when instead he ran out somewhere else. But that's literally the only part where you see that Aladdin's smart in that entire sequence.
Yeah, in the original movie, he actually enjoyed like the whole sequence, but the whole time we were going through it, he was anxious about it, and he was like, "Oh, I just gotta get away." Like I didn't get that charm and
That's
excitement
good.
from him.
Yeah, I just also want to point out this was also the beginning of the horrendous, sped up, awkward, fast motion
Fast
shot.
motion.
Yeah.
Where like maybe the original shots they just weren't like running fast enough or something, but all of the shots throughout the whole song, it was like they took every clip and made it like 20% faster, so they're kind of awkwardly like shuffling across the
Pretty
screen.
stiff.
Yeah, they looked really slow in the film. Like, for whatever reason, I was thinking Aladdin would be much faster, but he looked sort of like he was jogging the entire time. Which is different from Tom Cruise. When you see him in a movie, he's like sprinting. He's freaking Usain Bolt. And then when you get to this movie, it just looks like he's a schleb. Like Aladdin, the street rat, is now, some just poor man's sprinter.
Poor man sprinter. So he does end up rescuing Jasmine.
Yes.
Oh, the
Oh, the pole scene.
The
pole
pole scene. We
scene.
have something wrong with the pole
Oh,
scene.
jeez.
Because the one reason why Aladdin liked Jasmine was because of her intellect and her athleticism. Like, she jumped the pole and he was impressed. There was instant chemistry. There was
right
not a
in
whole...
the animated original.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where they really like. Yeah, this is where they started to kind of take away a lot of Jasmine's like appeal. Instead of having her, I guess in the original she jumped. They had to make a long jump and there was a pole. And in the original, I guess Jasmine just went ahead and vaulted over with the pole. But in this one, she was like hesitant and scared, and Aladdin had to like, look at me, trust me, I know you can do it. And only
Trust
then
me.
she made it across.
I did write down how many times he said "trust me" in this movie.
How many?
How
It was
many?
a lot. He said it 5 times.
Trust me 5 times. And were they
Yes.
all to Jasmine?
Yes.
Oh.
They were all to Jasmine.
So rule of threes is now out the window,
Right.
especially with the jams. We'll get to the jams.
Oh,
There's a lot of things we need to get to. So after Jasmine is shown to be a scared but independent woman, they somehow managed to make Jasmine a more constrained character, although they were trying to make her more independent, which I think was an interesting thing that they did. But after that happened, they go to Aladdin's bachelor pad,
Right.
and they look out. They look out into the streets of Agrabah, and Aladdin's like, no, you need to go 2 steps up. And then she goes 2 steps up, and then it's like 180 degrees in a different like corner of the room.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
He was like, you should see the view from up there. And she goes up like a couple steps on a ladder.
Yeah.
And then it's like,
She's like, "Whoa."
Yeah, she
Agrabah,
sees the
holy-
palace now, even though the palace is the biggest thing in the entire skyline.
All right, so they're still in the bachelor pad, and then while she's overlooking the slightly higher view of Agrabah, she sees this giant Norwegian boat coming in, and all of a sudden she's like, "Oh, crap, I gotta go." Aladdin has offered her tea, which I also have a count for. And they rush down, and they have the scene, which was more impactful in the original, where Aladdin saves the young kid from getting trampled by a horse. In this scene, it's a guard that nearly tramples the kid, and instead of in the original when it was the actual prince. And then Jasmine, even though she had previously lied to Aladdin about her identity, saying that she was the princess's handmaid, gets super butthurt and pressed that Aladdin seems to have forgotten her bracelet, which was my mother's bracelet. And she's like, "Wow, you really are a liar, and I'm naive." And then she storms off. And then we cut back to the castle, and this tall and obviously dumb Norwegian prince is like, "Wow, you are beautiful." And then she's just
Great
walking
accent.
down. I know, I don't do, yeah. And she's walking down, And then we see like, oh wow, if you didn't know already, she's not Dahlia, she's Princess Jasmine. Whoa! And it's supposed to like be this amazing thing, costuming really good in that scene. And so she's walking down, and then they have our first Jasmine is woke moment.
Did you also keep track of those?
Yes, I did.
Oh, wow.
And she has this interaction with the prince where she's just like, by the way, in case you didn't know, you're misogynistic. Meh. And he's like, and then he tries to play with Raja, and Raja proceeds to attack him.
Yeah, it cuts away to him screaming, so I thought that he had instantly died. And the only reason I thought that is because I'm not sure if it comes before or after this scene. Jafar straight up murders a man and pushes him into an endless well.
He Sparta kicks him. He's like, I don't need you.
Just so we're clear, Raja is the tiger.
Raja's the tiger.
Yeah, he didn't get bit by just like a dude. That would have been weird.
A random one of the guards came up and just
give him a little nibble.
And also, this is the beginning of my animal theory. I'm going to introduce it now. We're going to see how it develops, because it's obviously the correct theory. What happens is basically, in the original movie, and I think to a lesser extent in the new movie, all of the animals, all of the pets that the main characters have are extensions of their own personalities, but to an extreme. So, for instance, Aladdin's monkey, Abu, not a poo, Homer Simpson's not meeting him today, Abu is very greedy for money. In fact, in the new movie, he's the one that keeps Jasmine's bracelet away from her. Aladdin wants to, like, get with her, so he's like, yo, here's your bracelet. And then the monkey's like, no, we can't do that. And the point is that the monkey is sort of Aladdin's inner carnal desires, like, trying to take away from everyone else. It's this greed. And you can see that greed mirrored in Jafar and Iago, who in the first movie, Iago has these crazy ideas on killing people all the time that Jafar sort of has to, like, calm him down a bit. And then once Jafar, like, his mental state slips, he starts listening to Iago, which is a really bad idea. But the point is that Jasmine's tiger is an extension of her ferocity. And it's the thing she always has to keep in check throughout the majority of the movie because she's a princess. So whenever she needs to be outward or show strong emotion, Raja sort of does it for her. And this prince scene is sort of an interesting point where that happens, where she really wants to just, like, say, get the frick out of my house, you dumb Norwegian prince. But then the tiger does it for her. So I'm just saying that's going to develop a little bit. And then after the tiger scene, what do we cut to? I forgot what happened.
Probably something back to Aladdin.
Yeah, he's back in his bachelor pad, and he's chiding Abu, saying, yo, why'd you steal it? Why'd you steal her bracelet? I'm trying to get in there. And Abu's like, ah. And then he decides that he's going to sneak back into the palace later that night.
That's right.
Right. And then as he's sneaking in, Jafar's parrot Iago is they see Aladdin slipping past the guards and everything, getting in, and Iago somehow determines that Aladdin is the chosen one who can get into the cave. Which
is hilarious because all Aladdin's doing is, like, extreme Arabian parkour. So, I guess to be the diamond in the rough, you just have to take parkour classes.
Yeah, I just want to know, like, who gave Iago the authority to pick who's the...
Yeah.
Like, was it just a gut feeling, or...
Yeah, well, like, there's so much magic in that universe that it doesn't surprise me that Iago knows something, but why... First off, Iago can talk pretty much on his own, like, he's a parrot, so he repeats things, but he's pretty intelligent, less so than in the original movie, where he was the only animal that could talk. But it's sort of weird the power that he has, because they don't really talk about him knowing about the diamond in the rough or, like, any mystical powers after that. And he sort of disappears as a real character, unless Jafar turns into a giant hawk demon monster.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, so...
From hell.
So Iago is determined that Aladdin is the diamond in the rough. And then we just straight jump cut into Aladdin at the Cave of Wonders, right? Like, they kidnapped him.
He brings her tea.
Oh, no, I forgot about that.
Door, and it's, and Jasmine proceeds to lie to him again, being like... And she's like, no, I'm just waiting for the princess in this hella expensive dress, even though she's definitely like in these servant's clothes, which is interesting because for one of like the Aladdin's more intelligent than he looks scenes happens in his bachelor pad where he's like, oh, you're from the palace because of this and this about your clothes. But then he's so dumb that he doesn't see the difference between a actual royal gown and like servant's clothes, and he's like, yeah, that's the princess for sure.
Well, also he just completely forgets her face. She doesn't, or he doesn't remember her, which plays a like it just doesn't make sense with Aladdin's character. He's supposed to be smart, observing everything. He managed to know like the type of material that her dress was made of in the bazaar, and then he doesn't piece together that she's more than she seems. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Right. So,
and also, there wasn't any of that chemistry that we got from the first movie. Like, there was
No.
no original
No.
chemistry.
No, they hate each other basically.
Yeah.
They do.
Was the bracelet ever brought back up? What happened to the bracelet?
He did bring her
this is
back.
where
brought
he
it
brings
back.
the bracelet back,
Okay.
isn't it?
But then he takes her pin
And
out
then
of
he
her
takes
hair.
her pin. He's like, I'm gonna.
What happened to
be
the
back.
pin?
And then he
puts
he
it
has it at the
end.
too.
At the end,
he
he brings-
never gives it back to her the entire movie. He's like, I'm gonna be
Oh.
back when like the moon's above the minaret, and then
So
and
you-
then he gets grabbed by Jafar.
So that's like his cunning, like heartthrob move is like, oh, I'm gonna steal one
I'm
of your
gonna
little
steal
things,
your
and then
shit.
I'll be
No,
back to
then
return
come
it. You know, which, I mean, I don't really have anything to complain about there. Gonna be honest, like that's.
I
fine.
mean, it's sort of Chekhov's gun-ish, and for people that don't know what Chekhov's gun is, it's a rule in writing where if you introduce a specific object, you have to bring it back into the story somehow. So when he takes the pin out of the hair, while it's cool that it's like a suave moment, it should mean something or come back or do anything. It just it feels out of place, and I think it's indicative of the writing they have in there, where it's sort of a scene-by-scene basis rather than an overarching story.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess on the small scale, it does give like a little bit of any motivation or like enticement to like, oh, they have to get back together because he has to give her the pin. But too bad, Jafar kidnaps Aladdin.
Whoops.
Yikes.
And then we're at the Cave of Wonders.
Yeah. After Jafar tells him that he's a thief to give him character development. Since we forgot.
Jafar's
the
a
whole-
character now.
Yeah, he is. When he's talking to Baba, the Sultan.
Oh, can we talk about Baba, please? Because
Oh my god.
in the original,
Oh, I hate him
oh
in the
my
new
gosh.
movie.
Okay, so in the original movie, I'm just gonna compare to the original movie because I have my notes in front of me. But
Mm-hmm.
he's childish and he has characters and he's like sensitive. Like the whole movie, he's just playing with toys. But like in
Mm-hmm.
this movie, he's confident and independent and.
And then Jafar's main motive throughout the entire movie isn't necessary. Like, it's partly he wants to be so. He also wants to declare war on a nation for no explicit reason.
Exactly.
Except world domination, which I guess is like
Yeah,
okay.
he's like, I just want to have an empire by invading your dead wife's country.
It's like,
It's
it just doesn't make
what?
any sense. He has this thing about being second best, which I think is an interesting. Out of all of Jafar's character developments, I think that it's a bad idea they gave him more backstory. I do think the second best thing is a good idea.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Because it makes sense in a lot of the different roles that he goes into. Because he wants to be Sultan so he can be the most powerful. And then when he finds out that he can be more powerful, he becomes a sorcerer and then a genie. And it's this natural progression that you get because he's always like, I need to be the best in the room, smartest in the room, whatever.
And that becomes his downfall.
And that becomes his downfall. But back to the Cave of Wonders for a breakneck transition. At the Cave of Wonders, Jafar basically throws Aladdin in there, and it's the classic, he's actually worthy, which they don't necessarily play up too much. You sort of just see him enter and not get eaten, which I thought was a little anticlimactic, especially in the first one as well. They did it in both of them.
It was almost kind of ambiguous because like he just falls, like he enters the cave and he like the floor collapses and he just kind of falls in and it's like, well, how did he die or is this what being worthy like? Look, it never really.
It's never specified.
Yeah, it
Because
didn't
in
tell
the,
you.
The original, he like goes down this giant like staircase, and he's like, "This is the Cave of Wonders," and they really don't have that. They just have him like quicksand moment, and wow, look at all these jewels that I can't touch.
Mm-hmm. Which they break all the time. The jewels move constantly.
Oh my god.
And then, like, Abu at one point picks up a jewel, but
From falling, actually.
from falling.
So he didn't actually take it.
And then the movie decides that counts as stealing something. It's just sort of unclear, and the magic carpet is free during this time, and he also knocks down a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
And does the magic carpet count as a person? Could he steal things? That's besides the point.
He's just
Aladdin makes his way through the Cave of Wonders. It's set up that Abu can't or should not touch anything, even though he wants to, and they get into the big giant room, which in the original movie was so symbolic and so cool, because it was this gray rock, like just sort of oval-ish shape carved out into the ground with water, and this giant step in the center of the room going up to the lamp at the top that he had to climb up, very tall and imposing. And there was just one gem in the room, and it was the one that Abu is fixated on. In the new movie, there's gold everywhere, and Aladdin's got to do some cool guy parkour to get up. And then, like, Abu, for some reason, thinks that the red gem is the prettiest one, so then he wants to take that. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
And the gem started talking to him like a Horcrux.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait.
Got a little Harry Potter.
I know. I was like, that can't be it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to the genie. He takes...
No, wait.
Well,
Well,
so
that whole part with Jafar, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll give you my foot.
My brain's moving too quickly for this. Right, so he grabs the lamp. As he's grabbing the lamp in a cool, like, cut back and forth, he's grabbing the lamp while Abu is, picks up the big red gem, and the cave, flips out, you can't take my gold, and okay, I thought this part actually it just looked cool, like, seeing the whole cave collapse, and the whole cave escape scene, I thought was, like, no complaints there. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Can I also say that Aladdin is made out of some solid Teflon or something, because he goes through a lot. He slid down that entire like pillar and like got back up. He was like, let me just climb. No
This man's skin
bleeding,
is steel.
nothing. And then later on in the movie, like he takes a terrible fall and he's like, well, I guess I'm gonna pass out because of the cold, not because I definitely like just tobogganed myself.
Yeah, he basically gets out of the cave, and then Jafar's waiting there for him, and Aladdin's like, Jafar, you need to help me up, and Jafar's like, no, you should give me the lamp, and Aladdin's like, well, you should help me up, and then for some reason he doesn't say, if you help me up, I'll give you the lamp, because I could just drop the lamp right now, and this will all be for nothing.
Aladdin's dumb.
So then Aladdin, and that happened in both movies, and I think it's equally as dumb in both. So Aladdin gives him the lamp, and then Jafar's like, what if I give you my foot instead? And then he crushes Aladdin's fingers, and he falls, and he falls, and he falls, and to no one's surprise, the carpet comes up and saves him. And in this whole turmoil, Abu manages to sneak the lamp out from Jafar's hands, so Aladdin has the lamp at the bottom of the cave with the carpet. And then, what was the reason he rubbed the lamp? It was super
He just
dumb.
rubbed it.
He was like, what is this? Because it started glowing.
Yeah, it started
blue,
glowing.
And he blew on it, and then he just like started and every time someone rubs this lamp,
It's
dude,
sensual.
It's the weirdest, sensual, like, why? And no.
Yeah.
And no one can just rub it regularly. They have to like caress it and like move all the way like down it.
And they have to say sweet nothings into its ear and like
Come
make sure
on.
it's comfortable.
Come on, baby, you got this.
Yeah,
just
just
show
like-
me the genie.
It came off as a little weird to me, like he already knew what to do. Because in the original, at least, he was like,
What's
oh,
the
there, he was like,
Yeah,
there's
what's the
something
writing
written on
on
it.
it?
Like, I can't read this. Let me rub it off. But in this one, he just picked it up and just rubbed it. He just went in.
He just
As
really-
Aladdin is apt to do. But after he rubs the lamp, a genie spurts out of it. Bad wording. A genie
Worse wording.
A genie enters from the lamp into the outer world, where you see it's Will Smith, and he doesn't look as bad as he did in the trailers. I
Because
thought
his face is half covered.
it's dark and the lighting's like okay, so you can't really see anything. But he's all imposing. He's like, I'm the great genie man, and I'm the coolest genie man. And then Aladdin's just like slack-jawed, like he's not even saying anything. And then the genie starts talking to Aladdin. The charisma, sorry to say it, isn't really there. You can fight me on that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I was watching
Oh,
the
never
Robin.
mind.
I was watching the Robin Williams scene again, and he was just like, it was just flowing so much better. It was
Yeah.
nonstop. But then Will Smith just
Will Smith is too cool. And that's the problem, is the genie is an off-the-walls, insano whack job. Like, that's his character. And Will Smith sort of, like, plays it as if he's just, like, the Fresh Prince grown up a bit. Like, he's cool and he
Yeah.
has, like, a couple jokes, but it's, like, nothing too crazy. And then you get into the Friend Like Me scene, where the genie's like, look at how cool I actually am. And it was super underwhelming.
it was good, yeah, but it wasn't great.
It was underwhelming.
It wasn't as good as the original.
Oh,
There was
no.
something about the original where it was just like, wow.
It's captivating in the
Yeah,
original.
it's
and
just
this
captivating. And it's
Mhm.
hard because even with CGI, like, you can't capture all of, like, the different, like, genie things, like when he, like, splits into multiple people or when he does, like, weird things, because you just can't really do that and make it look real. And I feel like they just should have found something that they could have CGI to make it look cool, because he's just like, here, look at my spinning hammer pants, look at my lasso tricks, and it's like, that's not, like, Genie juggled his head. Like, you need to, like,
Genie
step
is a
it up.
schizophrenic, and in the original movie, Robin Williams sort of portrays the way the genie is cooped up, because the genie is very lonely. So the way he makes up for it is he talks to himself all the time. He does all these crazy things to amuse himself. And in the movie, in the original movie, it makes sense because Robin Williams will, do all these different accents for different characters. And the one thing it was one line stuck out to me during the entire thing, and it was the "Life's your restaurant and I'm your maitre d" line. In the original, Robin Williams says it in a, French accent. It's crazy. He's like, "And I'm your maitre d', ha ha." And then in the new movie, Will Smith just delivers it plain. "I'm your maitre d'." And it just, for some reason, that line sort of is a litmus test for the rest of the genie scenes, where it's like he's not really trying his hardest to be the eccentric character the genie really is. And I think he was phoning it in for a lot of what he was doing.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to mention, Casey, too. The problem with live action movies is that you can't capture what happens in animated movies. Like, because you are only limited to CGI and what you can capture, but in animation, there's just that other magic that I feel like they couldn't capture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? And that's the same with Will Smith. I mean, if you were going to choose, who would you guys have wanted to see as the genie?
Oh boy, a comedian.
Steve
A comedian.
Buscemi. Could you
Steve
imagine?
Buscemi.
Danny DeVito.
Danny
Danny
DeVito.
There you go.
Yes, Danny DeVito.
I think Childish Gambino would have been a great genie. And
Yeah, just because he's weird.
well, he's weird. He's a comedian, so he has the timing, and he just has more personality than Will Smith
Yeah.
does.
Oof, Donald Glover.
And that's the thing is, I say the genie
man.
saves the Aladdin movie, in the first one, because in my opinion the first Aladdin movie is just okay story wise, but Robin Williams' character acting in that is fantastic. While in the new movie, the genie, who's supposed to be this breath of fresh air, ends up being just as bland and awkward as the rest of the characters.
I just want to point out, A Friend Like Me is where it started. They did this weird. I think it's a largely because Will Smith was
The
playing
hip-hop.
the genie. They had this weird hip hop like motif going throughout the whole movie. It started
Yeah.
in Friend Like Me. They had this weird like four on the floor like hip hop drum beat behind it.
Yeah.
That just felt so out of place. It sounded like a Kids Bop karaoke version, because you have like this swing jazz tune with like a hip hop drum set beat behind it, and it's
Yeah.
like, what's going on? And then Will Smith starts beatboxing.
Yeah. No, I remember that. I remember being visibly disturbed. I asked for my waiter to come and comfort me. He had to bring me a blanket and some warm towelettes. It was a traumatic experience.
But if you want to push the service button.
Yeah. Well, so, and after the song, I shouldn't lean back. The genie, is like, all right, man. So where's your boss? And Aladdin's like, I don't have a boss. It's just me. And that just sort of like hammers in the point that, oh, Aladdin's such a nobody. Who could like Aladdin?
Yeah. And then the genie sort of pushes him further, and Aladdin then says, well, there was this one guy, and the genie's like, there's always that one guy, right? And obviously that one guy's Jafar, and that line is going to get brought up again throughout the
many
movie.
times.
So many
So many
times
times.
for
Where it's
comedic
like,
and dramatic
"That's
effect.
the guy."
That's the guy. But so after they do that, we get to the scene where we see how smart Aladdin is.
Finally.
And
Finally.
the problem is, in the original movie, the rules of of wishing were that you just had to say "I wish" and then you would do something, right? In the new movie, they added asterisk to that, where it's like you have to rub the lamp as you say it. So they don't explain that. They don't explain you have to rub the lamp as you wish. So what happens is, or at least I don't remember that.
He does
They
it
did.
briefly.
I think
He does it briefly.
I feel like he
Briefly.
does.
I don't think they emphasize it enough then, because I
They do
immediately
not.
forgot.
Yeah,
Oh.
they don't.
So Aladdin basically pushes the lamp behind him a little bit and then says, I wish to get out of the cave. And the genie's like, okay. And he gets out of the cave. And then the genie's like, okay, well, you only got 2 wishes now. And Aladdin's like, well, actually, I got 3. The genie's like, no. And then the first fourth wall break happens where the genie becomes a viewer and he's watching the movie. And he's like, oh, yeah, he actually did do this. And the fourth wall breaks in this movie are not as good as the original.
Mm-mm.
Oh no.
They feel less natural, and they tried to modernize it, but I don't think that modernity sort of works with Aladdin, and I can't explain why. It just feels like in the original where they had things like the genie would pull out the script to tell Aladdin his next line, or he would do a bunch of these things, but they sort of had this antique-ish feel to them.
Right.
While in the new movie, it put technology into like 3rd century India or Arabia or wherever they are, and it just didn't flow very well.
Yeah, I think the fourth wall breaks were a little weird, and I think it's partly because it's not animated.
Yeah.
Like, when you animate it, you can make the genie look a little bit like you can make him fit into like the role you're trying to have him play a little better, right? Like the genie's face is constantly changing into different people, right, for impersonations and stuff. But you just can't do that with Will Smith's face because it's Will Smith's face.
Yeah, it's a very well-known face. Like, you can't elongate it. And I think the one scene where they did have his body, like, physically morph, it looked super weird. Like, his torso
he's like
stretched
downward
out.
dog and it's like
Yeah, they pulled him out, like, silly putty, and then, like, he
Yes,
snapped
ooh.
back into place, and it was just, like, ugh, it made your skin crawl.
Yeah, and they tried to do the Will Smith changing into different people with.
And it was just weird.
Yeah, they did it twice in 2 different ways with Aladdin, because they did it when he was making fun of him in the Cave of Wonders,
Yeah.
where they literally put
Just
the actor's
well-
face like from the neck like up, just like
And it came out of nowhere.
And
like,
it
it
came out of
shocked you. Like,
nowhere.
you just looked at
Yeah.
it and you were...
And then
You-
later in the movie, where he's like, oh, or you could be like this one-off line of being like a warrior prince, and they try to make it look like a
Ugh.
statuesque warrior prince, but it actually kind of looked like Aladdin. But you know, CGI budgets, that's where the CGI budget went for that one, like, 15 seconds.
I think out of a lot of the Disney princess films, this one was the one that relied the most on animation, just because of the genie.
Yeah.
In the original, he was, I mean, as you guys said, constantly changing faces, and that's that's sort of added on to the cool schizophrenia the genie had. But in this one, he doesn't feel magical, I think. He sort of just feels like a guy who can, like, conjure up things, but they're never too grandiose to the point where you're actually in awe of what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons why that scene lacked with the music composition.
Yeah.
Because that was supposed to be the moment where we connected with the genie and saw his power.
Yeah, and you never really do that. Like, you never feel the genie is so cool that you, like... the genie holds you hostage in the first film, where, like, you're so enamored by his character that any scene with him in it becomes your favorite scene. While in this one, the genie... I wouldn't say detracts, but definitely doesn't add anything to a scene to make it more dynamic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
So then Aladdin gets out and he tells the genie that he still has 3 wishes, and the genie's like, okay, fine. So then after that, he tells Aladdin, okay, now wish for, like, realsies this time. And then they pinky promise. They don't actually do that, I don't think. And then they tell each other, or Aladdin tells the genie that he wants to become a prince after he tells the genie about his crush on Jasmine, which is the only scene I laughed at because Will Smith did like this funny, cutesy, like, who's the cute girl thing. And that's the comedic height of the movie for me, is that sort of throwaway line. Did you guys think it got any funnier than that?
I appreciated the awkward tension with Prince Ali that's going to come a little later.
Yeah.
Almost Office-esque.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Yeah,
'cause-
where they just go back and forth. I like the banter.
I did, yeah. I think Prince Ali had some good moments that I appreciated just because of how... I mean, they were intentionally awkward,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It was like
But
Office.
that kind of scratched an itch for me. But right, so Aladdin wishes. I want to become. Okay. Aladdin is like, make me. I want you to make me a prince, so I can go, because Jasmine can only marry a prince because she's a princess. And the genie says, okay, sure. And he uses Aladdin's first wish to turn him into Prince Ali, and gives him this whole parade and entourage.
Which is
That
super
was-
underwhelming as well.
Oh, I like that.
You
scene.
like-
I love that
I
scene.
think it was
that
pretty great.
scene.
I didn't like it.
I feel like that was the musical scene that was the closest. to
Yeah,
the
the
I
whole-
completely disagree. I thought that was one of the worst scenes in the movie.
It's hard to. You have to argue though.
Really?
It's hard to mess up a whole new world like that.
Yeah,
was
you
pretty-
Whole
can't-
New World was great. We'll get
Listen,
to
you cannot step on a whole new world. Like, you'd have to be
Whole New World was great.
completely off.
Because there's
something.
there's not a lot going on there.
that.
Yeah,
No,
you're
it's just
just-
beautiful scenes, beautiful people singing beautifully.
Right,
Yeah,
but back to
snuggling
Prince
each
Ali.
other.
I think that was really cool. Like the elephants. There's this whole parade for Prince Ali, and Will Smith is singing the whole time, and again it has that weird hip hop drum set beat behind it, which took away from it for me, being a big music nerd. But but I loved the Prince Ali scene. I thought it was great, and it was like the scene itself was pretty faithful to the original, like with the little one-off comedic moments in it.
They put Genie in drag.
They put Genie in drag.
I think that was in the original, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it
Yeah.
was. I mean, he had giant
Giant boobs in the first one.
in the first one.
And this one, I don't think he had any. He just sort of put himself in.
Yeah, it was
in
just
drag.
like an empty dress.
Empty dress. The reason I didn't like it is that the very first part where it's sort of hyping up Aladdin, it's very static on the camera work. And that's something they
yeah.
didn't do in the original one, where it had this sort of frenetic feel where you're constantly moving around and,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
genie's changing to a lot of different people. Like, look at how cool this guy, Aladdin, he's awesome. And this one, every shot they had felt like the cameraman was like just too lazy to move the camera.
It's just like walking backwards.
Yeah.
with the camera.
For the first like 30 seconds of the song, it's sort of a static shot on the genie just sort of singing.
It is.
In his
it is.
Right?
giant ass hat.
In his massive hat, which they had a joke about earlier.
Yeah,
and
like
it's-
that's not a big hat. This is a big
Yeah,
hat.
stuff like that. Honestly, like, I think that was supposed to be like a callback joke, but
No,
I,
it, yeah,
it
definitely.
wasn't.
I
None of
definitely-
the callbacks
I definitely
were
didn't make
silly.
that connection until just right now.
Yeah.
For a lot of the callbacks they had, they sort of didn't time it correctly because when you plant something, you want to give it time to like for the person to forget that it's there, and then it comes back and they're like, "Oh my god, it's there!"
But it has to be prominent enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It
because
wasn't.
the big hat thing, the Prince Ali scene is, I just about one scene after Friend Like Me.
No, yeah.
Right? We're in the
Yes.
cave and then it's Prince Ali. So there wasn't really time for that to like simmer.
Yeah, and they didn't emphasize it enough. And if they were going to do a quick thing, it should have been like a smash cut from "That's not a big hat," and then you see him in the big
Yes.
hat.
Which
definitely would have
This
been-
is a big hat.
Awkward, but it would have also been funnier than what they did.
Yeah, they would have had some catching up to do if they did it that way. So Prince Ali parades through the city and the genie's hyping him up, and the Sultan is into it.
Sultan's into it, Jasmine's not.
Because Genie. Okay, the only reason why she's not is because they cut to Jasmine having all these interactions with Dahlia, and Dahlia's like, oh, he's rich, when they're like, he has all these, like, camels, and Dahlia and her having these interactions, and then she's completely taken out of it when Jeannie makes a one-off comment about how hot she is, and then she storms off and, like, walks, and she just, like, goes, and you don't see her again until Jams.
Oh boy, we're almost there.
We're almost there. Well, so what happens in the interim between that exactly?
I think we see the Sultans like lets them in, and then we're just in the palace hall, and the genie's like, all right, here she comes, like get ready, you know, and Jasmine comes down, and the most belovedly awkward scene that I've ever seen happens.
That was a good scene
tough.
for me. That was.
Oh man,
I thought.
No, so
Someone's
you guys
gotta run
liked
through
the
it,
scene.
yeah.
So you guys liked the scene.
I did appreciate this.
I didn't.
I did not appreciate the scene at all. I thought
It's
it
like
was
this couch, that couch.
We're the optimists.
I
here.
know.
I thought it was absolutely annoying because if we go back to what we were saying about Aladdin and his confidence, it just totally downplayed and changed his character, and it was drawn out. They were just kept. It was so like drawn out.
If anything, okay, it was a little bit long. I think they sat on the whole jams thing.
Yeah, they think the
too
word
long.
jams way funnier than it actually is, and it's not.
Yeah.
Like they go on for legit 20 seconds about different types
It's
of
a
jams.
whole-
Oh, we're here, so we can talk about it. So Aladdin is trying to play himself up. He's presenting everything he has to offer to Jasmine, and he's like, we have all this gold and stuff, and then the whole time the genie's like, dude, stop, and then he's like, we have jams, and they think it's like, I guess it's supposed to be like this really funny joke, and he's like, yeah, we've got all these kinds of jams, and they just keep talking about
Just keep going.
Mhm.
it.
And they will
Just
bring it
keep
up
going.
like 8 separate times in the.
I should have had a jam count.
Did you have a jam?
I didn't have
Oh
a jam.
no, Casey!
I didn't. I realized halfway through the movie I should have had how many times they call Abu a blank monkey, because they have all like either dirty monkey or like you cunning little monkey.
Cunning monkey. No one says cunning, you
No
know.
one says
Cunning.
cunning. Aladdin or
You
like the
cunning.
jams. Yeah. It was
So then after the jams, Princess Jasmine is thoroughly thrown off from Aladdin.
because
He said he
makes
would buy her.
he makes a comment about
Yeah.
how he's here to buy Jasmine.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, ooh.
And then he gets a second chance to redeem himself because he's like, "Oh, sorry," and then he makes another like really
He
bad
makes the same
statement.
mistake again.
Yeah. And she's like, does that mean that I'm for sale or something?
And he
or
goes
that,
like, yes.
Yes, of course.
And he's like,
not."
"No." Which doesn't make sense. Like they played it off for laughs, and I get it. But like, how do you make the same mistake like that twice in a row? Aladdin's smarter than
Exactly.
that.
3 times in a row at this point.
Yeah, 3 times.
He's used to talking to women. We see in the scene.
In the first scene, we see Aladdin. He's
Yes.
talking to women, and he knows them so well. He knows when they're stealing from him.
he's super suave and
Super
he's
suave.
and he's
He
sexy.
had schoolgirls.
Oh yeah, the
All
harem,
over
but
it.
not.
The harem, but not. And all over him. And when he's parading through the town, he's like winking at girls and like, oh, Prince Ali. But I feel like why I found it like charming is just the genie's reactions, because that was like the genie was just like a real person, and that where I could like feel that. Where it's like if I was in that room and I was watching these two people interact, I'd be like, I know exactly who would be Genie and who would be Aladdin, who would be crashing and burning, and I feel like Genie's responses to Aladdin crashing and burning were just hilarious for me.
Yeah, no, I liked this whole like Act 2 middle part of the movie. This is like probably the part that I liked the most of the whole thing. So, right, that now Aladdin is bummed out because
Super sad.
because Jasmine doesn't like him, but the genie's like, "Hey, man, there's another chance. They're having a dinner tonight. The Sultan likes you. You got this." And then he's like, there's this subplot of the genie and the handmaid having a relationship. He's like, the genie's like, I think Dahlia the handmaid is real hot stuff. So like, do your best.
And that's reciprocated on both ends.
Yeah, and Dahlia meanwhile to Jasmine is like, come on, give him another chance. she doesn't know he's a genie. That assistant that Prince Ali's got is pretty hot. You should make it work.
It's hot stuff.
And
yeah.
then
Hot stuff.
it's the dinner dance scene.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
my.
Ooh.
So they got that actor for Aladdin, I think mainly because he can dance and sing.
Yeah.
Well,
and
sing is debatable.
Yeah.
sing is
I
debatable.
I didn't like his singing voice that
No.
much.
And we see
He
him.
didn't have him sing, like...
No,
I
we
mean,
didn't have him sing that much.
Yeah.
Like he sort of just talked.
He was talk singing
Yeah.
the entire... He was like,
I could sing it.
Javert in
Oh,
Les Mis.
yeah.
He was
Oh,
Javering
no.
the entire
no.
time.
Oh, are we making that a verb now? Javert?
Javert.
I love that.
It's just like, street rat, I don't bite that. And it's just like the entire...
That is a pitch perfect recreation
It is.
of that entire
Yeah.
thing. But they're at the dinner, and Aladdin's being super awkward, as he always is, and the genie's like, okay, you should totally go up and talk to Jasmine. And then the scene in the trailers plays where Aladdin's facing away from the princess, and he's like, dude, I don't think I can do this. And the genie's sort of waves his fingers, and then Aladdin starts floating backwards towards the princess. And then he turns around, and more awkward talking ensues, and then a dance scene shows up. What did you guys think about the dance scene?
Casey.
All right. So, okay, so the beginning was really awkward when he was just like flailing around
Because
but
the genie is like moving
yeah,
his
he's like
limbs for
controlling him. And then afterwards, when like he finally gets like the hang of it, I was like, okay, I'm into it. This is Bollywood. I love this.
But then it like
And-
speeds up
yes.
increasingly.
And then all of a sudden, like someone said, like, "Yo, Maestro, pick it up," and then he's just like, and he breaks down into this like semi like hip hoppy thing, and that
Yeah.
was one of the.
Mhm.
It was entertaining to watch, but it definitely did not belong there.
The whole.
It was one of like, as we've mentioned before, like the weird hip hop moments where it's like, okay, that's Will Smith. Like it has to be. Because you don't the backflip.
Oh yeah, they talk about this.
They
back.
kind of. I think they kind of own that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that
oh,
was too
that
much.
was a little much.
But that sense of like excess in the wrong parts of the movie plagues it in a lot of aspects where they should be focusing on more character-driven scenes or plot or themes, but they decide to spend their focus on bad jokes that really are sort of like pointless in the story. Like, who cares if Aladdin did a backflip or not? He was showing
Yeah.
off already, right?
All right, so where we ended off, now more awkwardness ensues between Jasmine and Aladdin, and we keep learning that they're incredibly unlikable. And then a whole new world happens, and she trusts him because he tells her to, and Raja does. They have a whole new world is probably the one that they couldn't screw up, so it's great. It's amazing. It's beautiful. That's you get some of the chemistry simply because it's a duet and they aren't looking at each other for the entire time. And then they get back, they kiss way too early, even after Jasmine finds out that Aladdin had lied to her for the 80,000th time. And then on his way back, Aladdin gets snatched by Jafar for the second time.
Yeah, so after Aladdin snatches Jafar. No, other way around. Jafar takes Aladdin. We now get the crazy psychopath side of Jafar we sort of saw, but the transition from I just want the lamp to I'm actively trying to murder you. he doesn't know that Aladdin is Aladdin at this point. He still thinks he's Prince Ali. And what he's doing is sort of a power move to either prove that Prince Ali is Aladdin or just kill Prince Ali because he's a threat to Jafar's ascension to the throne.
Yes.
And what happens is Jafar takes Aladdin and ties him up in a chair that overlooks the ocean. And then after a very short conversation, probably about, I'd say 30 seconds, would you guys agree? Yeah, Jafar just straight up kicks him into the water. And this is the drowning scene that happened in the first Aladdin movie. And the entire time we see the monkey and the carpet with the lamp, and they're trying to fly around and find Aladdin because they don't know where he's been taken at this point. and there's this weird slow-mo shot in the middle of Aladdin falling.
That was the most... Okay, we can continue.
It happened for no reason.
No reason. We just got no facial complexion from him. Nothing at all derived from that.
Yeah.
Just...
And the entire time that this is happening, Aladdin is letting out a blood-curdling scream. Like, this man is letting the children in the room, who were crying for a lot of the movie, especially in our theater because of Raja, which I just thought was funny. But blood-curdling scream as he's falling in. And then we get to see Aladdin drown a little bit. The chair breaks on impact, so he's sort of free. And it doesn't make sense that he's still trapped in ropes.
Hits, the way
it looks
the
like he's dead.
impact, when he hits the water, his neck does this weird, like, crick thing, and knowing that scientifically he should be dead, that would have snapped his neck.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, he just, like, passes out. But he doesn't pass out from impact, he passes out from drowning.
Mm-hmm. And then, at that moment, the monkey with the luckiest water shot of all time, because when you throw things in the water, they don't go straight. He throws the lamp in the water, and it goes, 3 feet off from Aladdin. Aladdin swims on over, and, I think he rubs it before he gets knocked out or something.
Yeah, he rubs it right before he passes out.
Yeah.
So then the genie comes out, and he's like, what the heck are you doing down here? And then the genie thinks about, maybe I should save Aladdin, even though he can't technically wish for me to save him. And then he comes up with this fake clause that he has to break. It's sort of like...
He makes him sign a contract unconscious.
Yeah, which is a crime. And it further goes into my theory that Genie is the real villain of the movie. But, so Genie gets him out of there. Aladdin is saved. And Aladdin has a pretty heartfelt moment with Genie, which I thought was nice, where Aladdin's like, I don't care what it costs for you to save me. I think you're the greatest, Genie. And Genie's like, yeah, I know. And then I was surprised they had the sex scene right after that between the genie and Aladdin, but I thought it made sense within the movie.
I blame you, James.
Why did we're recording?
What?
And then...
I'm sorry.
Definitely cutting that out. You can't have that in. Jafar... No. Aladdin and the genie are BFFs now. I thought that was a pretty heartfelt moment. I appreciated that. And they go and they confront Jafar, and they're like, Jafar is talking to Jasmine and the Sultan, and he's like, yo, Prince Ali was a traitor, but he's gone now. I got rid of him. And then Jasmine's like, oh yeah? Then why is he right here and all wet?
And all wet.
And they're like...
Because it's him and Genie.
And they're like...
Now it has to stay in, James.
I'm so sorry. And then yeah, there's this whole confrontation, and now we know Jafar is evil. And he tries to hypnotize them all with his magic staff.
Mm-hmm.
But Aladdin, being the hero he is, runs in and breaks Jafar's staff. But
in slow-mo.
But the staff isn't working at the time. It just looks like a normal staff when Aladdin sees it. Mm-hmm. So, and we know the staff is magical. By the way, the staff is the dumbest thing in the entire movie because why does Jafar have it? Why does it work the way it does? Lots of questions.
They never explain it.
Besides the point, Aladdin smashes the stick, and then Jafar gets, Soup's angry. And I forgot what happened after that.
He ends up on the throne somehow.
No, they arrest Jafar. That's what happened. Is they arrest Jafar.
Oh my god, I forgot.
And then the Sultan is still like, wow, I just got brain... Sorry, I'm not gonna say that. I just got messed up a little bit. And then he's like, oh, but you can definitely marry my daughter if that's what you want. And then no one's watching Jafar after he has this conversation with Hakim, which is very... It's supposed to be important, but it doesn't really matter that much. And then you see Iago come in with the key, and then you're just like, oh shit, Jafar's on the loose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hakim, by the way, was he a character in the first half of the film? I didn't notice him.
That's the problem. We never noticed him.
He kind of came in for the last.
It's Hakim ex Machina, just so that he can be like, yo, she's my sultan at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so somehow Jafar ends up on the throne. I don't quite remember how.
He gets the lamp.
Yeah, he goes and does the weird, spinny,
Aladdin,
Jafar.
Yes. So Jafar runs out into the city, where he finds Aladdin, who's in the city also.
The sun.
and steals the lamp off of him because if you remember, Jafar is also a thief. So that sort of comes back in. Jafar steals the lamp and he now owns the genie and makes his first wish to become the Sultan. Yada yada yada. A lot of really weird and awkward stuff happens that we're gonna skim past, I guess, for time's sake.
He tells Jasmine to shut up, and she Thanos snaps everyone.
There's this.
I have to touch on this.
Just briefly.
You get so confused in the movie theater when she starts breaking out in song and everything starts disappearing.
Yes.
Because everything vanishes, basically.
I was so confused. Because you think, like, oh, okay. Because magic works so weird in this movie, so you're like, maybe she has powers.
You think she's actually killing the people.
And then she dusts her dad, and it's like, yo, this has to be a montage of some sort.
It's like this. It's like the climax of Jasmine's story arc where she just starts singing about how she's not going to be chained up anymore, and everyone starts dissolving around her. And then, so this all happens, and then you cut back, and none of it was real, and Jasmine's still chained up. Jafar is still the Sultan. And then there's this whole confrontation between them, trying to stop Jafar, but nothing's working. Jafar uses his second wish to become the most powerful sorcerer. Just giving him some more cool magic.
Which, like, and as I was saying before, the second best thing makes sense in that case. But jumping from sorcerer, it's more of a move to just screw over Aladdin, who he has a personal vendetta against this point. Because what he does with his power is he sends Aladdin to the North Pole.
Ends of the earth.
The ends of the earth, even though, scientifically speaking, the earth doesn't have ends. Besides the point, he's...
What? Really?
Well,
sorry.
It's not flat.
It's not flat.
Oh my gosh. So he's in the Arctic now, and Aladdin's just sort of walking around. He's freezing, and the monkey is there for some reason.
Yeah, he snapped a boo too.
He snapped a boo too, but like, you don't really get that the monkey was there until you see him in the Arctic, and you just sort of have to piece it together yourself. And how did they get out of that again?
The carpet.
The carpet, okay.
Because Genie Willoughby woos the carpet for...
Did the carpet fly them all the way back from the North Pole to...
Okay,
Yes!
so I wrote, one of my questions is how long is a magic carpet ride? Because they went all around the earth during a span of like a 5-minute song. And then they went from the North Pole back to like Saudi Arabia, like in
it just doesn't
2
make
minutes. A scene and a half.
And so Aladdin's back in action. He gets the lamp back.
Jasmine gets the lamp.
lamp. Oh yeah. Jafar is like, I'm gonna do this horrible thing to the Sultan. Jasmine, come here and marry me. And at the last second, this is all like different from the original, right? In the original, completely different, like third act. Jafar's about to kiss Jasmine when she steals the lamp and like
long ass
and like tosses it to Aladdin, who's back in Agrabah on the carpet.
She full on like.
Oh no! Yeah, she jumps out, right?
Jumps off.
And so now there's this
the
chase.
balcony.
Sorcerer Jafar uses his magic to turn Iago the parrot into this huge raptor toucan Sam monster. And you get the weirdest climax ever where there's this chase between a huge parrot and Aladdin on the carpet with the lamp. Nothing really...
Yeah, basically the bird is raging through these streets and is taking out building after building after building. That doesn't come back at all. Like, the people are still very happy that... Aladdin's the king now, even though he let a giant bird through the streets to kill all their houses and half their family. But,
Sokovia?
yeah, exactly. So Aladdin doesn't get out of it, even though Jafar's staff is pushed off the edge by the Sultan, which causes the bird to sort of shrink back to its normal size. Iago's now Iago again. But Iago does manage to get the lamp, and then... He manages to get it, I think, after they land, or is it before they land?
I'm not sure.
Because the Jafar does his whole, like, vilifying the castle, which
Yeah.
happened before, like, that happened during in the original, when Jafar was torturing everyone, basically.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
gotta be the weirdest shot ever for me. Is you're supposed to, I guess, put together that Jafar is turning the castle into his evil lair now, but literally all you see is some spikes come up on the
like,
window
he's
railing.
like, oh,
He's
he
just
installed a
interior
cast iron
decorator.
fence.
That's all that happened, and it's like, oh, it's evil now, I guess. And so Jafar has the lamp again now, and first, he summons the genie, right? But in the big moment, right, Aladdin is like on his knees, everyone's losing, and he convinces Jafar. He says, the only way you're never gonna be second best is by becoming a genie, right? Even if you're Sultan and have all these sorcerer powers, the genie gave that to you. So the only way to be the best is to become a genie. And Jafar listens, but little does he know that by using his third wish to become a genie, he is trapped in his own bottle, and so Jafar is now sealed away.
Aladdin 1, Jafar 0.
Right. And then Aladdin and Jasmine get married.
Yeah, so after the climax, we have a little bit of denouement where Aladdin and Jasmine go through this kissy-kissy montage, and then they get...
do.
Yeah, they're like, stop, thief, and he's like, thief? What?
And this
Why
is
did
the
she call him
moment-
a thief?
I don't even know.
This is the one moment where the pin comes back from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
only
he puts the
moment.
pin back in her hair, they kiss, and it like cuts around as they're kissing, and they're getting married, and...
And they're getting married again.
Yeah, they're like macking on each other too. Like
Yeah.
it's a crazy scene for a 4-year-old to see. But then we also get a little bit of resolution with the genie story, who's now set free by Aladdin. Aladdin did use his final wish to set the genie free, and now he's on a boat with his dear Dahlia, and it sort of circles back to the beginning of the movie, and then the story ends.
Yeah.
And then I think
We get the DJ Khaled friend
Yes.
like
Oh
Oh.
my. Oh.
and
DJ
that's the
Khaled.
movie.
And that's
the
Aladdin.
movie, and that's
That's
Aladdin.
Aladdin.
so do we recommend it?
no.
No.
It's a. I would.
I
It's a
recommend it
movie-
with an asterisk. I say go see it with some buddies.
Yeah.
If you love Aladdin, like
Don't go see it
oh,
because it will disappoint you.
you will be
I
disappointed.
definitely think.
Okay.
Oh.
One of my favorite things about mediocre or bad movies is that I just get to watch people fail in real time, and it's really funny to me. So if you're into that, then I would go see Aladdin, because there's a lot of points where you can really sort of dissect the movie and think, like, this is a horrible idea. Why are they doing it?
Yeah,
How would I change
yeah.
it?
If you can recognize the bad, then it's easier to recognize the good.
Right. Yeah.
Whoa.
There you go.
There you go.
That's the episode
That's a
title
quote.
right there.
Right, but yeah. So yeah, like 4 out of 10 for and that's
I think
pretty.
that's our general
Yeah.
consensus.
I'd
That's
say
our-
it's a
4 out of
10.
10.
That's
For
our hot take.
nostalgia's sake.
That's our hot take on Aladdin
There.
2019.
Yeah,
Maybe.
thank you everyone for listening to the first episode of our podcast. We're going to have a bunch more coming out on a bunch of different movies. If you have any recommendations, then please say so in the comments. I believe this is going up on YouTube. And we haven't decided on other platforms, but if we do, they will be in the description. Make sure to like, subscribe, all that jazz. And give us feedback. That's what we want most, is feedback. How do we make this better? Can we get that Charlie guy to shut up for 3 seconds? Just a bunch of things. Please tell us. And thank you for watching.
Yeah, right. Share it to your friends.
Share it to your friends.
Yeah, we hope to put out a lot more of the summer. I think is our plan.
Oh yeah, summer it's going in.
We are Socratic Cinema.
Cinema.
Say it right this time.